Hi, my name is Jenny Morton.
And I am Stephanie Kanzler.
And today we're going to talk to you about social media, gaming, and mental health. This presentation is created by Common Sense. Common Sense is committed to making kids the nation's top priority. They are a trusted guide for families, educators, and advocates who help kids thrive. They provide resources to harness the power of media and technology and to shape public policy to improve the well-being of every child. Welcome and thank you for taking the time to learn with us about social media, gaming, and mental health in our technology-dependent world, especially how it affects our children.
More than anything, we want our kids to be safe, healthy, and happy. But in the news, we see scary headlines around kids, media, and mental health. Though we can't completely solve this problem with a presentation, we will walk through the information and tips you need to feel more prepared. Here's what we'll cover. Overall, research around this topic is new, so we'll examine what's out there and what we know is true. Then, we'll look at our kids' brain to get some insight into what they're working with when they start using social media. Social media can be scary, so we'll look at some of the problems that do sometimes happen. Finally, we'll briefly look at the upsides of social media and gaming and talk about how to use media in a positive, balanced way.
How many of you have seen a headline about social media or gaming tied to anxiety or depression? Yes, those headlines seem to be multiplying as we start to look at the effects of the digital world is having on kids. Though there's no truly definitive long-term research about the effects of social media and gaming on mental health, we can still piece together enough info to help our kids.
Here's what we can say for sure. Children who use screens the most are less happy than those who use a moderate amount. And those who use a moderate amount are happier than those who use none at all. Researchers call it the Goldilocks hypothesis. What does moderate mean? That's the tricky part. There's no clear line children shouldn't cross. It's more about how it fits into a balanced approach to everything else in their lives. If they're having fun times with friends and family, pursuing outside interests, staying healthy, getting enough sleep, and doing okay in school, their use is probably in balance. It also matters what they use it for. Facebook's own researchers found that endless scrolling and liking with no interaction tends to make people unhappier. Also, children who are digital status seekers tend to engage in riskier behavior offline. Finally, there are lots of variables that make it hard to nail down cause and effect. Kids who are unhappier overall have more negative outcomes using social media than kids who are happier offline. Lack of sleep is an often overlooked factor when it comes to mental health, but it's a powerful one. Ultimately, if digital media seems to be making your kid unhappy, then that's enough to go on.
The research gives us some information, but let's take a look at what's happening with your kid's brain that might affect how digital media impacts them. First, it's important to know that a human brain isn't fully developed until about age 24. The prefrontal cortex, which helps make good decisions and prioritize, isn't done growing. You can think of it like the orchestra conductor who helps direct everything. Instead, tweens and teens use a different part of their brains called the ventral striatum, which isn't great at thinking through consequences. In the context of social media, that might mean posting a picture that's embarrassing to themselves or someone else. When it comes to gaming, it might mean playing all night instead of doing homework and getting enough sleep. They also tend to see situations as final and forever. That might mean that if someone makes a cruel comment and someone else agrees, it might feel like an indisputable truth that everyone agrees with and that will never change. As tweens, they're developing the ability to see others' perspectives, which is an important skill. However, with the increased focus on peer approval, it also means being preoccupied with what others think of them. Social media can play into insecurities around other people's opinions, as can in-game chat.
So the bottom line around these brain facts is that tweens and teens are set up for risk-taking, making quick decisions without thinking them through, seeking peer approval or being preoccupied with other people's opinions of them, and seeing things as black and white, total truth, no end in sight.
Since that's what kids are working with when we hand them smartphones, there are some potential impacts that social media and gaming can have on mental health. We'll approach them as 4 categories: comparison, pressure, drama, and isolation.
One of the challenges, especially with social media, is comparing your insides to other people's carefully curated, posed, and filtered outsides. And since children's brains are already prone to feel vulnerable around what others think, the way they use social media can definitely impact how they feel about themselves.
There are lots of feelings that come from social media. They may feel like everyone else knows what they're doing and is having the best time all of the time. They may feel like they just aren't attractive enough. Social media can reinforce body image issues that already exist. One study found that women performed worse on a math test when wearing a bathing suit than while wearing a sweater, which may indicate that the way we see ourselves can impact our performance and confidence. If children work hard to look perfect online, they may start to believe that no one will like their imperfect selves. Getting likes and online approval can be very important as a measure of self-worth.
So, what do we do? First, it's critical that the feelings your kids have around comparing themselves to others are real, and they can't be swept away with a simple, "You're pretty," or "Don't worry about what other people think about you." Start with empathy and validation can be powerful so your kid feels seen. I know it's really hard when it seems like everyone looks good and has it together, and it's also true that these pictures are just one piece of their puzzle, and comparing our whole selves to one piece doesn't add up. So, if you're having trouble with this, here's one way to relate. Imagine you have a coworker who has the same position as you and seems to be perfect. They're attractive, sharply dressed, and cool. Not only that, they seem to do a perfect job all the time. Your boss is constantly praising them. Day in, day out, that's what you see and hear. It's a bit like what social media can feel like to a child, an unattainable standard always on display. Duck syndrome isn't a strange illness resulting in webbed feet. Stanford researchers coined the phrase when describing how, when a duck is swimming, it looks effortless from above the surface, when, underneath, the duck's feet are frantically paddling. It's helpful to remind children that someone's life may look effortless, but everyone has struggles and insecurities. Modeling how to struggle, make mistakes, and be imperfect helps your kid deal with it too. If they see us trying to be perfect, they may take that pressure on themselves as well. Instead of only emphasizing positive outcomes, it's important to praise effort, even if they don't succeed. Working towards something and learning from the experience, even when it ends in failure, is how kids build resilience and work through perfectionism.
Remind kids that despite the social media illusions of physical perfection and happiness,
the reality is that everyone has insecurities, sometimes struggles, and isn't perfect. We can help them use digital media to communicate and connect rather to compare and despair.
The next potential pitfall is pressure. Though these challenges affect everyone because tween and teen brains have less ability to prioritize and make good decisions, they're even more vulnerable to the addictive qualities of technology and the always-on nature of digital media.
The more tweens and teens feel pressure to stay in touch and in the know, the less time they have for other things like sleep. Unfortunately, lots of kids already struggle with sleep because of the early school start times and busy schedules. Constant connection can complicate things further. Though the impact of blue light from phones, tablets, and TVs might not be as significant as once thought, it's still worth considering, especially for teens. More concerning is staying up late to scroll, text, and chat, since the pressure to keep up and stay in touch can be powerful. As we all know from when our kids were newborns, not getting sleep can really affect one's health, outlook, and performance at work or school. Not getting enough sleep can also contribute to mental health problems like depression.
It's hard to feel like you can't keep up, and it's pretty compelling to see your likes and follows climb. They may feel like it's critical to stay on top of the news, celebrities, and other information that's important to their social group, or they won't be included and have a fear of missing out. They might feel that if they don't hold up their end of the digital social contract by liking posts, maintaining snap streaks, playing with their gaming team, and all of that people will be mad and they'll be replaced. When those little red numbers climb, they may feel like there could be something important waiting. Also, if people are liking their posts, there's a positive rush that's hard to resist.
So how do we help our kids feel less pressured? Again, it's important not to dismiss or minimize their feelings of missing out or responsibility, as their feelings are real and legitimate, even if we don't totally understand. If you're having trouble understanding, here's one way to relate. Imagine your doorbell rings, then it rings again and again. Then your phone rings. Then there's a knock on your back door. Any one of those things could be important, or none of them are. You just don't know. And you know a prize is coming, but not when or how. But if you miss it, it'll be gone and your family will be disappointed. That's a bit like how it feels. Though this might be tricky for some kids, encourage them to turn off notifications or at least downgrade to a less intrusive version. In settings, they can turn off notifications completely or downgrade from sounds, banners, and every bell and whistle to one type. Or maybe they can pick one app to get notifications for, or let friends know that if it's really important, they should text, because they won't be checking every notification they get. Keeping devices away from the dinner table and out of the bedroom can help your kid contain the urge to keep checking. Though kids may need a computer for homework, they probably don't need their phones. Have your child get into the habit of either putting their phone in another room while doing schoolwork or using an app designed to keep kids focused. If your kid wants to listen to music at bedtime, you may be able to use the device controls to make sure that's all they do. If not, an old-fashioned alarm clock and a charging station in another room might help your child get to sleep on time. The way you use your device is really important. And your kid will definitely call you out if you tell them one thing and then do another. If you struggle with all that sticky social media, be upfront about it and challenge each other to resist and set limits. If you're using your phone as a tool for work, shopping lists, etc., tell your kid what you're doing so they know you're not just scrolling.
If you have a tween or teen, they're likely familiar with drama. But being behind a keyboard can sometimes mean especially bad behavior, because of something called the disinhibition effect. When we aren't face-to-face with someone, we say and do things we might not otherwise. And because teens play out some of their social lives online, there's bound to be some drama.
As we know, there are lots of feelings that come along with the drama. Children might feel like they can't face humiliation of going to school and seeing everyone if there's been online drama swirling around them. If drama starts in their friend group or no one sticks up for them, they may feel all alone and like there's no one on their side. If someone's requesting pictures or passwords, a child may feel like they'll avoid drama if they comply, but giving in may just kick up trouble.
When kids are dealing with drama, here are some ways to help. One of the most effective ways to help your child with online drama is just to listen. If your kid is coming to you, seeing, understanding, just listening, and validating their feelings, can let them know they're not alone, and that you care, and that you're willing to help if and when they need it. To help your kid avoid starting the drama, help them think through posts when you have a chance. If you see them taking a picture of a friend to post, suggest that they ask first. If they're trying to work out conflict, encourage them to call or wait until they can talk to the person face to face, which will help them avoid misunderstandings. If cyberbullying is happening to your kid, take screenshots, block the bully, and report them on the site or app. If the bullying persists and your kid is in distress, ask your kid if they want you to intervene. If there's a physical threat of some kind, it's time to get the school and/or the police involved. Preventing drama by being positive online and sticking up for those who are the target of rumors or bullying also empowers kids and helps them band together instead of drawing out the drama.
Sometimes digital drama starts because your kid makes a mistake, like sharing an iffy picture or breaking some rules. So let's dig a bit deeper on how to help without making things worse. No matter what the circumstances, it's good for your kid to know that we want them to be safe first and learn lessons later. Try to put anger, shock, and outrage aside and step into support mode. Listen, don't lecture. It's likely that natural consequences will be enough of a lesson, but when the worst is over, it's a good time to reinforce limits. If your kid is being accused, try to reserve judgment. We never want to believe our kids can be mean, but if they hurt someone, accidentally or on purpose, we don't want to jump to their defense right out of the gate. Avoid jumping on the phone to another parent or the school. Lead with a listening ear to see if intervention is necessary. Often, kids figure it out on their own or with friends, and it leads to a better solution.
Depending on your kid, social media and games could either start out as a refuge or end up that way. For some kids, social interaction feels easier online in the context of a game or forum. For others, online relationships and social media can become a way to avoid problems and emotions, which ends up isolating them.
Teens who isolate by going online are usually dealing with intense feelings of some kind. They may feel like it's easier to just have friends online since in-person relationships are too difficult for a variety of reasons. They may feel better when they're online because they don't have to feel certain things or deal with problems. They may also feel like they're in too deep if grades have slipped or conflict with parents have started, and now there's no way out.
If a kid is already feeling isolated or is avoiding something by being online, it probably means they're already struggling. So a sensitive approach is usually best. It might seem best to take away devices if a kid's use feels out of control and they've given up on things they used to love. But if they're using digital media as an escape and lifeline, it could make things worse. Before taking drastic measures around devices, try to identify the underlying causes of isolation. Is this a familiar pattern with your kid because social interaction has always been hard? Has there been a major life stressor? Do you know why your kid has retreated? Are they using game or social media as a temporary escape from difficult circumstances? Within limits, this can actually be helpful if it's contained and temporary. If they won't talk to you about what's going on, it's probably time to get outside help. Short of banning devices, setting some limits around when and where your kid can use them will help contain how much time they're spending online. Eating dinner together as a family as much as possible is proven to decrease risks of negative outcomes, like substance abuse, so have device-free dinners. Teens are notorious for not getting enough sleep, which can significantly impact their mental health, so keeping devices out of bedrooms helps set limits naturally. If you suspect your kid is fostering online relationships with a stranger, find out more. Are they just chatting in interest-based forums? Is there someone they consider special who they feel close to? If so, they may feel very proprietary about that person. Though you want to keep your kid safe, it's also important to tread lightly if you think your kid feels this person is their only friend. Cutting off all contact in anger or fear might trigger extreme behavior. So staying calm, empathetic, and reasonable will help tap into underlying feelings instead of making the online relationship something to defend. Approach media balance as a family instead of targeting one kid, even if that one kid is the only one struggling.
So what if you've seen some warning signs and you think your kid is in trouble? First things first. Even though it's scary, it's important to keep your own emotions in check. Coming at your child with accusations, a need for reassurance, or judgment isn't going to help, and it may shut down the conversation before it ever really starts. Knowing the basics of your kid's life is important. You don't need to track every move or know everything, since children need some privacy, but knowing their friends and your kid's whereabouts is important. As always, lead with empathy and listening. For example, I noticed that you've been spending a lot of time alone in your room and haven't wanted to hang out with anyone. It seems like maybe you're going through a hard time. I really want to hear about what's happening for you. If you'd rather talk to someone else, that's okay too. We can do whatever you need. It might feel like you're alone, but you're not. I'm right here with you, and I love you very much. If your kid opens up and wants to talk right away, let them and listen. You probably can't fix the problem for them, so being there is the most important. Depending on the circumstance, you can see if your kid is open to or would like to get some professional help. If they're expressing thoughts of being all alone and feeling helpless, ask if they've ever thought about suicide. Many parents believe that bringing it up might plant the idea in their kid's head, but it's better to get it out in the open. They say yes, and there hasn't been any professional help up to this point. It's time to get some.
Professional face-to-face help is necessary if your kid is in crisis. And there are also digital resources that might be helpful for kids who either only need lower impact support or on-the-go accessible support. Some of these apps focus on gratitude, some on meditation, and others on specific mental health issues. There's a list on the Common Sense site if you want to read full reviews. Another quick, accessible resource is the Crisis Text Line. You text 741-741 to be connected with a counselor any day, anytime.
We parents have concerns about how digital media impacts our kids' mental health, and we're wise to stay mindful and observant. What's also true is that neither social media or gaming is inherently bad or harmful. In fact, both can be fun, creative, connective learning opportunities when used in balance, and ideally, together as a family.
How do we tap into those positives? With tweens and teens, there's a very fine line between showing interest and invading their space. And we're not always going to get it right, but it's important to keep trying. Tweens and teens often send the message that they want space and think we're the worst. So we have to find the balance between giving them some space and letting them know we're there and we care. Even as they push us away, we need to stay involved, despite the eye rolls. Do ask questions that are based in curiosity, not judgment. Do ask your kid to teach you about the latest app or game they love.
Keep asking and talking. In the course of our busy lives, it's easy to only pay attention to the logistics of dinner, laundry, and appointments. But the deep dives are important. Digital media is ever-changing and requires an ongoing conversation. A lot of what teens are using is actually pretty cool. Sometimes our instinct is to play the old school fuddy-duddy and try to tell kids that what they love isn't great. Instead, have them show you what's cool, why it's cool, and what you both might learn from what they love.
There's a reason your kid loves the media they do. It's fun. We might not see it at first, so we may need our kids to show us why something is fun. Even if it's not our jam, if we can show our kids we're willing to give it a chance, they're more likely to open up about what they love in the future. Playing games and using social media together can be a great way to bond. Our goal isn't to take something over and make it ours. Instead, we can let them take the lead, be the teachers, and dip in and out of their domain to stay in touch, but still give them space.
We sent home a packet that has some cool tips and tools for you to check out as a family. And if for some reason you did not get that in your kid's backpack, there is a digital copy on the website. So we encourage you to check it out.
Thank you.